Good evening, Black-owned economy. Welcome to another edition of B.O.E Live Rooms. This is episode 7, which is the third or fourth that we've had in April, and of course our April month is all to do with businesses that were set up in 2020. So today we've got another wonderful room set up where we've got B.O.E Books, and we've got two brilliant hosts this evening, which are going to be having a conversation regarding various topics. I don't want to talk too much about it because I want these guys to introduce it and let you know exactly what they'll be talking about. So without further ado, I will hand you over to our host this evening.
Hello and good evening. Oh dear, it was tickling my throat there. Bad timing, all right. My name is Carolyn and I am the founder of B.O.E Books. B.O.E Books is a bookshop that specialises in books by Black authors. And we started, as Jermaine said, in 2020 and now have the biggest selection of books by Black authors in the country. And I am joined this evening by Isabel Bain, who is related to me. She is my daughter. Isabel can introduce herself.
Great. Hi, I'm Isabel. I'm a singer and songwriter. I work with B.O.E Books. I help run their social media page. I'm a podcaster. Basically anything to do with music and the arts, I'm pretty much involved in it in whatever way that I can. I do some vocal production, and last year I started up a merch company that helps other artists to sell their merch online through drop shipping, which has been fun.
So Isabel also manages some other kind of social media accounts as well as B.O.E Books. And yeah, she wears lots of hats, so she can pick which hat she's going to wear through the evening, depending on what question comes up and what people want to know. So this evening, we're going to really just kind of have a conversation. The topic generally is just looking at whether Black-owned businesses are actually making a difference. We've seen a big rise in, I hate this word, entrepreneurs. I'm trying to say it the best I can, from the Black community. And, you know, we're a year after George Floyd's death, and after, you know, a big movement and push from the Black community and a greater awareness in general in the country. And so we're kind of just looking and thinking, well, where are we? What difference have we made? Predominantly, we're going to share our stories and talk about our own experience, but we would love if you've got any questions at any point through this, please just ping them up. Jermaine is going to interrupt us with questions when they kind of fit and feel relevant. So if your question doesn't get answered straight away, don't worry, we will try to come back to it. But yeah, we're pretty much just going to have a conversation. We've got some questions we're going to ask each other. But yeah, feel free to join in, to ping across your questions. And I guess even for those who are watching afterwards, if you have got questions for either of us, you can email me at customercare@B.O.EBooks.com. And Isabel?
You can email me at isabelbainmusic@gmail.com.
And if you can't remember those, just email Black-owned economy and Jermaine will push them our way and we will answer. We very much want to help the community and we want to see other people grow. And so if we can help in any way, please definitely hit us up. So Isabel, I'm going to ask you a question.
I love it.
Throw you in at the deep end.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a bit more. You've said what you do, but tell us a little bit more about what kind of that looks like. What does your week kind of look like?
Oh, geez. I mean, it varies. It varies a lot. There's not. I mean, it's lots of fun because there's not really any way of knowing exactly what my whole week will look like guaranteed. There's lots of last minute stuff that comes up. I work for, at the moment, 3 companies whose social media that I run on like a part-time basis, so for books, and then 2 other companies that are like slightly smaller, a little bit more local to the area. And so a lot of that involves some planning. I spend at least 1 or 2 days a week sitting down and putting aside content, making sure that stuff throughout the week is all good, checking in with my clients and making sure that I've ticked whatever they're doing that week, and that's all covered. I have a Patreon page because the music industry is not really doing stuff at the moment. And so I had to kind of get a little bit inventive as to how I earn through music, which is like my first job. That's like the main priority in terms of work. And so I have a Patreon page. I release at least 2 covers a month, plus some other extra bits on top of that. So that involves a lot of recording. I've got like a very, very basic studio set up in my room. So lots of looking into covers, checking to see if anyone's made any requests for covers, and making sure that I'm ticking those boxes. And then I'm recording stuff, putting arrangements around it. I spent a lot of time in 2020 working as a vocal producer, which for anyone who doesn't know what that is, basically means that I turn up to a studio and write like backing vocal parts for other people's songs, which is a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. So that's come in useful for Patreon. And then at the moment, I'm kind of just getting ready for summer. There's lots of conversation about venues being open, so just trying to plan stuff out for that. Trying to get band members together, talking to other bands that have asked me to kind of come on board for other projects, and pulling that kind of stuff together is, yeah, the general. But it can vary. It can vary. This week has been a little bit more admin focused. So lots of emails and lots of writing things, which is not my favorite, but it's not the worst. Yeah.
So then you've also got the the Yaka merch place. So what's like the light bulb moment where you decided this is what we should do? I'm going to go all in and do this thing and start this.
Yeah. So last year I was working for a coffee shop. I had a part-time job at a coffee shop and was working for this particular company. I got put on furlough like most other people who work in the service industry or in retail or most industries. And I'm trying to get the dates right, but around June, I got fired from the job for many reasons that they said. Not 100% sure how much of that was true, but I got fired from the job and was in between places, was trying to find a new place to live in London, and things were getting a little bit hectic. And so I really, really had to sit down and rethink how I earn and how I kind of monetize on the things that I am good at. And so part of that was sitting down and talking to people and saying, okay, well, what do you think that I'm good at? What is it that I can do really, really well? And then thinking about how do I earn from this? That's kind of how my Patreon page got started. And one of the things that is spoken about a lot in the music industry is about the fact that one of the best ways for musicians to earn is by selling their merch. But if anyone has ever tried to sell merch, you would know that it's quite expensive. It requires a lot of money. You usually have to buy a lot of things wholesale, and find the space to kind of store them in your house. And when you're buying things wholesale, it often means you don't have the money for the things that people do want, like t-shirts. And so you have to buy things that people maybe don't want as much, like badges or canvas bags, which is harder to sell. And you're trying to get rid of stock quickly and get new stock. And it can get quite hard, especially for people that are, I guess, independent contractors or musicians or people who are working by themselves and don't have an office space or anything like that. And so I sat down, I started talking to you about this idea of bringing merch in. At that point, you had, I think, just started a t-shirt shop just around in June time. And so we were talking about, can we find a way for not just me to earn from merch, but actually to help other musicians to earn from merch? And is there a way to kind of open up a platform for people to actually earn money in a time where it's really, really hard to earn money. And so Yaka was born, which is the company, Yaka Apparel. We created this website. We started getting in touch with other musicians and started bringing people on board to sell merch. Yeah, so that was quite a big one, of more being forced into it and then going, actually, no, this could work. We could make this, we could make this work really well. So yeah. What about you? What was the thing that like made you start with, because you had the t-shirt store?
Yeah.
Say a little bit about that.
Okay, so yeah, I worked at a company at the beginning of last year. There were 2 Black people who worked in the company. Within 10 days, they sacked the only 2 Black people, me and another guy. You know, I don't know if it's a coincidence that it was also 10 days after we had complained about the racist man that was walking around screaming racial slurs. What can I say? I'm not an expert in these matters. And so I thought, oh, okay, I'll try, you know, some drop shipping. I'll run a t-shirt shop. I'll put out some nice designs and just do some cool designs and whatever. And the merch was nice, but in all honesty, I use these terms loosely. The business was not a success. So I don't say that it failed, because, and the reason I don't say it failed is because I learned so much from it. And so it financially was not a success, but it was successful for me in what it taught me in a very, very short time. And then I just went back to the drawing board and thought, well, okay, that was okay, because that was kind of a chasing the money sort of thing. But what is it that I want to do? What is it that I'm passionate about? And I was a mother who home educated 3 children from preschool to uni almost. And I just knew that I'd spent all of my time constantly searching for books, just constantly looking for books that were characters that looked like my kids, where there was some level of authenticity in it. And so it was something I knew about. It was something I was passionate about. I was previously an event manager, so I had quite a lot of connections through the event industry, and I'd happened to have worked with these wholesalers in Eastbourne, and I just thought, I wonder if that wholesalers would be interested in selling me books by Black authors. I wonder how hard it is to find these authors, you know, in a wholesale sense. And I phoned the wholesalers, and I just literally got the worst. I mean, their customer service was terrible. I got the runaround. I mean, I was passed from department to department for about 2 days. And I thought, oh, stuff this. This is so annoying. So I sent an email, and in my email, I just said, look, this is what I want to do. Can you help me or not? Just give me a yes or no. Stop messing around. And they said, oh, we'll give you an account manager, and you can have a conversation with the account manager. And the account manager that they gave me happened to be the account manager that I'd worked with on a previous project. And so he had warmed to me. I guess he'd seen me in a very corporate setting. And so I had a little bit of favor there. And I told him what I wanted to do. And he was like, sure, we don't do that, but why not? Yeah, let's do this. And yeah, so again, from there, Afori Books was born, literally. And I went in really just thinking, he'd asked me initially, how many books do you think you'll put in the store? How many books are you talking about? And I said, oh, 100 titles. And he was like, 100? And I thought he meant 100, like, wow, that's a lot of books. Because what do I know? Not even close. And so I went in with 100 books, 100 titles, thinking that we'll do 100 titles. We'll, you know, get some teen books and some academic, you know, some books about anti-racism. And that will help people, because that's what I wanted to do, just give a platform to some authors and help some people out who were struggling to find the books that they wanted. And within we started in August 2020. I had to think about that. We started last year. Yeah, I can just say last year, right? We started last year, and by the October, we were just selling books. We got to Black History Month, and it was just like, oh, this is a lot of books we're selling. And I kept, each day I was doing a bit more research and thinking, oh, we need to get that author in the shop and that author. And I just couldn't think. There was no reason not to keep adding authors. And so by the time we got to November, we were had in the thousands. And then by the end of November, we had more Black authors than anywhere else in the country. And we keep looking, we keep checking this to make sure that we're not making stuff up. And so now we have the biggest range of books by Black authors in the country. We have lots of independent authors, as well as mainstream. So we've got Maya Angelou, but we've also got Lee Naffa, which most people go, who's he? And he's a great story that I might tell you about later. But yeah, so the light bulb, I guess, was a combination of passion and, I guess, like many people, backs against the wall, and it's like, what have I got to lose? I've got nothing to lose, so let's just go for this thing that, yeah, why not? Just why not? Yeah.
It's so good. I mean, I've heard the story a million times, but I still love it. It's great. It's so good. So you talk about kind of how Afori Books was started because you, as a parent, years ago, struggled to find.
I'm still a parent, by the way, even though you're grown up.
That when it started, that you struggled to find books by Black authors or books with Black children in it for your kids. What do you feel now? Do you feel like stuff has changed? Do you feel like it's easier to find books? Do you feel like it's harder? Do you feel like there still needs to be some work done in the industry of authors and books and that kind of thing? Or do you feel like you're on more of a level playing field?
Well, I mean, I definitely think it's easier for Joe Public, as they say, to find books, because I exist. And we really, in every way, are the one-stop shop for Black books. There's pretty much nothing that you couldn't find in the shop, and also just because of our connections, we are able to get books so quickly for people. So people can email me, and they do sort of every week. Someone emails me and says, "Hey, I'm looking for a book by, so and so," and I'm like, "Oh, great, never heard of that author." Do a little bit of research. Yes, absolutely, you can get that in the shop for you. And within 2 days, that book will be available in the online store. So for everybody else, it's fairly easy. For me, it is so laborious. So I would tell you that since August and continually, but at the end of last year, I wrote to the 6 major publishing houses. So predominantly, all books in this country are controlled by 6 companies, apart from those that are independently published, so self-published, as we would call it. And I wrote to all of them and asked them to send me a list of their Black authors. And they all said no, every single one. And they said no, and their reasoning for saying no was, we don't list authors by their race. And they make it sound like they're doing a great thing. Now, any Black person knows that that is the greatest get out clause ever, because now you don't have to admit, which is what I know, and we know from reports into the publishing industry, you don't have to admit that actually 5% of your authors are Black or people of color, and there was a report fairly recently, which I can't tell you exactly where it is, but it's on our Instagram page, that looks into the publishing, the diversity in the publishing industry. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. And it talks about this complete lack of Black authors in the industry. So at the moment, no, it's not easy for us at all. It's a massive slog. We are constantly searching for new authors, and we can't, there's no support system for us. The wholesalers also refuses to list authors by race in any way whatsoever. So they will say, what a lot of publishing houses will say is, they'll say, we have got a BAME list. However, and you know, I guess if you're a reader, you'll know this, and particularly if you've got children and have ever tried to buy children's books, is that most of the books that contain Black characters that are prominent in bookshops and in the publishing industry are written by white people. And what I have found, one of the reasons why I wanted to start Afori Books, is that there's a lack of authenticity to those characters. They're made fairly simplistic. They lack in lots of different ways. I mean, so many different ways. And so, so when you know, when the wholesalers, for example, sends me their monthly publication, and it's got their BAME list in it. I mean, I went through their list, their BMA list 3 weeks ago, maybe, and there's about 40 pages. And I got exhausted by page 3, which means I've done 300 books. There's 100 books per page, because I only found 25 Black authors out of 300 books. That what kind of BAME list is that? You're just, and so, you know, their concept of diversity in a book is, there's one guy who wrote about his travels around Ghana. So that made that a diverse book. Great. So this white middle class guy went to Ghana. You know, it's just, it's not good enough. And so, yeah, so it's a massive struggle. I spend the majority of my time, I would say, in the shop doing research and looking for new authors. We do a thing, if anyone's ever interested, if you find an author and we haven't got it in the shop, we will give you an automatic discount on your next purchase, because you've probably saved me about 2 hours work. So yeah, and people send us stuff, lots of customers send us stuff, and people talk about stuff on our Instagram pages, and we follow publishing houses and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, and you know, again, like many people will know this, you know, we're in 2021, it's April, it's a long time since Black squares went up on people's social media, and lots of publishing houses put Black squares up and not much changed. I'll tell you another one is that in October, so at the beginning of October, shops were still open, and Waterstones, I live in Brighton, and Waterstones in Brighton had their Black History window, and I went past and I was looking at their window and I was thinking, that's really weird. I don't recognize hardly any of these authors. In fact, I only recognize 3 of the 15 books that are in the front page, and I thought, I need to do some research. I've missed some like big authors. No, I hadn't. They just weren't Black. Even for Black History Month, they went with something that had a cover that looked ethnic, you know, and yeah, just, so apparently even Black History Month doesn't actually need to be about Black people, or, you know, be a time to celebrate Black authors. So yeah, the publishing industry is a very difficult place. It's dominated by white women. It's dominated by graduates. And yeah, there's not much room for anyone else at the moment.
Which is such a shame, I think, considering the fact that you obviously have now got this amazing bookshop set up that has this massive selection of Black. So it's not that there aren't Black authors out there, and it's not that there aren't people who are writing stories and you know, and putting out these amazing stories and narratives that isn't just about like the Black struggle or anything. Some of it is really just simple, like sci-fi or romance, or do you know what I mean? It's not like there's variations of everything, and they are just there for people to to take and explore and to read and to learn about. But unfortunately, it seems like a lot of publishers aren't.
Absolutely. And I love when customers say to me, or someone writes on an Instagram page, I didn't know there was sci-fi. Yeah, we're a whole, we're a whole talented community. Yeah. We do much more. And there's not, don't get me wrong, I love that we talk about racial injustice, because we must. Yeah. We absolutely have to be the voice of that. But it's not the only voice we have. I am passionate about racial injustice, and it's one of we have these 3 principles, 3 mission statements for B.O.E Books, which is, number 1 is that we support Black authors. Number 2 is that we create diverse bookshelves. And number 3 is that we are a voice against injustice. And everything we do must sit into those 3, that 3-point mission plan. If it doesn't, then we won't touch it. But I have a voice in all of those areas. Yeah. I, as a Black woman, I can talk about racial injustice, and I can sit snuggled up with a great sci-fi book. I can, as Isabel knows, I can talk about Marvel all day, all night. That does not change my outrage against racial injustice, but I also am a massive Marvel fan, because, we are not one-dimensional people. And I love that the bookshop shows that and pushes that in that sense. Yeah. But yeah. That's a really long answer to your question.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a good answer. I think just for people who have joined up maybe in the last hour, 30 minutes, I don't even know how much time has gone. I'm going completely time blind. I don't think that's a thing, but I've gone time blind. We're just talking. We've got some set questions kind of for each other. We're just going to have a conversation. If you've got any questions, please put them in the chat. We're very happy to interrupt ourselves and answer your questions. So don't feel like you have to be silent unless you want to, because you're allowed to do what you want. So there
Absolutely.
You go. There you go.
Absolutely.
So do you have to put the questions in the chat? Sorry, I'm being so rude.
No, go for it.
No, it's just a briefie, really. I had 2 questions, but now I can only think of one that I want to ask. Anyway, I remember a while ago, a couple of years ago, there was a young, I think she was an American girl who is it Diaz? Is it something Diaz, or is her first name Diaz? I can't remember. Who, because the fact that there weren't many, she couldn't see many Black books for children with, not just about Black authors, but books that represented her. So she went out in order to find a list or find books with people that looked like her. And I think in terms of what she's done is that she must have got maybe, is it hundreds of books now, or children's books that are from, that are from Black authors and have Black families and represent Black people in them. And I'm just wondering whether or not it's something that, whether about her story and you've looked at that as well, in terms of looking at, young people and getting books for kids, not just for adults, but for kids. And I suppose one of the things that I know that I recognize from being in Black-owned economy is how many authors there are out there. Because like you say, generally for myself, most Black authors are the authors already, like Maya Angelou and stuff like that, are only the authors that I know. So it's just a comment I'm throwing out there.
That's really okay.
It's good.
So I would say that we, you might have missed the beginning of my blurb.
I did, unfortunately.
That's okay, no, that's no problem. So B.O.E Books has the biggest range of books by Black authors in the country. We have, my goodness, probably over 300, it must be more than that, I'm guessing, I'm estimating here, over 300 children's titles. So we have a children's range, we have a teen and young adult range, we have fiction, we have non-fiction. So yeah, so we've got hundreds of children's books and teen books. And I mean, at the moment, I would say generally just for the last probably 5 years, teen and young adult books are the best-selling books in the country. And the amount of Black authors that are out there have written amazing, amazing books. I'm always plugging this one book called Children of Blood and Bone. If you've never read it, then read it. It's got the most amazing book cover, and it's just brilliant. Just this sci-fi fantasy novel written, set in Nigeria, just great female protagonist. I mean, it's incredible. But yeah, lots of books for younger children. There's a book by Ibram, I'm going to say his name right, Ibram Zendi, called The Anti-Racist Baby, which is another massive bestseller and been very popular book as well. So yeah, so there's loads out there, and the range is out there, and yeah, if it's out there, we almost definitely have got it. And if we haven't, tell me, and we will have it within the week.
Right, okay. Oh, thank you. I'll have a look. I'm trying to get my grandkids more into reading than watching TV and the iPads.
Isabel, you were asking something?
I was. No, I think I asked you.
Oh, okay. So then I'll ask you as well. What? Obviously, you're a Black woman. In case anyone didn't notice that, yeah, just throwing that out there. I've been meaning to tell you for years. Wow. As a Black woman, and obviously, you know, you're in the music industry, you're running social media accounts, you know, you're an entrepreneur.
You're getting
entrepreneur. You're nearly there this time.
Thank you. I'll get there. You know what it is, Jermaine? I need a Leeds accent. I feel like it's.
Why do we pronounce stuff a bit clearer?
Oh, totally. You speak much better. The whole of the South need to speak much, much more like the North, and then the world will be a better place.
Okay.
But as a young enterprising person,
there you go.
What, you know, you faced adversity.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about getting sacked. You very kindly didn't call it racism, but I will. So how has that adversity affected you? Does it push you forward, or does it hold you down?
I think that for most people, adversity has the option of holding you down, but I think you need to I kind of decided in 2020, with the help of others, because I definitely couldn't have done it by myself, to use this to my advantage. I think that if this had happened in previous years, I probably would have like curled up into a ball and been very much woe is me and all my sorrows. But yeah, I think I kind of made like a very active decision of like, okay, well, I've always been I want to do music. That's like my goal. And I've always used not having enough time as an excuse and working a job to get the money so that I can do more music, but then I don't have the time for it. So I was like, great, I've got the time for it. So I need to like utilize, I don't know how long I'm going to have this time. And kind of got to the end of the year and realized, no, actually this works for me. I'm going to go full self-employed and kind of carry on with that. But back in June, it was very much like, okay, well, I'm going to latch onto this for as long as I possibly can. I've still got like a couple of months of furlough. I've still got, you know, a little bit of money coming in. So what can I do with this? What does this look like for me? So I think, yeah, I think it has been a real, what's the word? Catalyst. There you go. It's a big word for me. And it really did it feels now, or looking back, I can see now that it was like a launch pad to me doing what I'm doing now. I think there's a lot of things. I don't think I would have started a Patreon page. I don't think I would have started the merch company Yaka. I don't think that I would have got involved with social media stuff. And actually, these are all the things that are keeping me going. This is my day-to-day now. And so that's really cool. Yeah, it's been really, really exciting and good to know that I'm mentally stronger than I thought. that I was as well. So that's like a little ego boost. You know, we all need one every once in a while. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so it's been good. It's been good. It's been hard, but good. The music industry is probably not the most stable
Yeah.
of careers, but it's worth it, I think.
Yeah,
Definitely.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So you kind of spoke a little bit about, sorry, my brain's working very slowly. You kind of spoke a little bit in terms of how Afori Books came to be and what it looks like trying to navigate this just general career as being the shop owner, but also bringing other entrepreneurs and other book writers and people into the shop and giving them that kind of platform. We had spoken about this a few times, and I think this is kind of where this theme for this evening came, in terms of asking, are Black-owned stores and our Black businesses actually helping? Are we achieving what we feel we're achieving? And you write blogs for Afori, but I'm just giving loads of insight into you. You write blogs for Afori Books. You write a couple of blogs a month, and you asked this question, didn't you? You did ask this question of, are you, I think specifically to you, are you achieving, like, are you doing any good? Are you helping? What response did you get from that?
Okay, yeah. So yes, I wrote a blog, and it was titled "Our Black-Owned Business is Making a Difference," and I wrote it cheekily because I kind of felt like I had a little bit of the answer, in that we had an email from an author. So every month we have a book of the month in the front of the store, and we had an email from an author. We had put her book as our book of the month, and she said she felt compelled to write to us. And she's a mixed race woman. She said that her dad had died a couple of years ago, and that when her dad died, her dad was Black, her mum's white. She felt like she had really lost like a chunk of her identity, and she was like, I don't know where I fit culturally anymore, and what do I look like, and etc. And she said that when she got the email from her publicist saying that she was going to be our book of the month, the first thing she did was call her dad. She was like, Dad, oh, he's gone. But she said it just moved her so much that she said she just felt like she was being seen again, and that she was being seen as a Black woman, and that it was okay, without her dad being alive, for her to say, actually, that is my identity. I can say that I identify as a Black woman. She's a very light-skinned woman, but you know, she felt like, oh, maybe I don't have the right to do that anymore. And so that really touched us, and we wanted to share that email with our community, and so that was kind of the reasoning behind the blog. But I think, you know, that's not enough. That is making a difference, and we often say at Afori, we're changing the world. And so often on our Instagram pages, or when we're writing about stuff, or when we're talking, so we do a fair bit of public speaking as well, we'll often say, do you want to come and change the world with me? Because we're changing the world. I'm changing the world. And it's just a constant statement, because I so believe that every time somebody picks up a book with an authentic Black character in it, that it changes something in you, it shifts something in you, because it's suddenly pushing against a stereotype that you've always held on to. And even as Black people, you know, we hold on to these stereotypes. We've been fed this narrative. I can remember my son coming to me, he's now 21, he must have been about 15, 16, and he said something about crime, and he said, yeah, but Mum, you know, most criminals are Black, aren't they? And I was like, I was so horrified that he could say such a thing. I was like, why would you say that? What? And he said, well, I watch police action camera, or whatever it's called. He said, and all the people they arrest are Black. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is my son's narrative. This is what he's seeing constantly. You know, he's picking up books. There's not much to contradict what he's seeing. And so I just really believe that every time, you know, my nephews and nieces only ever get books by Black authors. And that, even before I owned the bookshop, I would just scour and go every Christmas. And I mean, sometimes my brothers have contacted me one year in particular and said, Karen, you've sent us the same book 3 years in a row. Could you find a different one, please? Just because I loved that book and I didn't realize I was sending the same one to them. You know, so I really believe that books change that. But I think that for us at Afori Books, you know, we get lots of emails from authors, from customers, just talking to us about their experience. And so that blog that you're referring to, Isabel, was in February. And about 4 weeks ago, we got an email. And I said earlier, I'm going to come back to a guy called Lee Naffa that you've never heard of. Lee Naffa is an author from Liverpool. And he contacted me and said, hey, I just wanted to contact you and say, I was just looking at your bookshop and thought, oh, this looks cool. And as I was looking in your bookshop, I found the book I wrote. He said, I wrote this book 20 years ago and nobody would publish it. And they were very blatantly told me that they would not publish my book because it had a Black man on the cover, and it is a little bit controversial, and the Black man is wearing a Nazi uniform. And he said, but the book is based on the true experience of Black people, Black Germans, who were already in the army, and Hitler took over and the very nature of the German army changed, and they had to try and find ways to get out of that and save themselves. And so he wrote this fictional story based on, you know, this research that he'd had from a distant family member, but nobody would touch it. No, everyone said, no, there's no way, we're not publishing that. And so he said, he wrote it 20 years ago. Last year, at the beginning of last year, he thought, I'm just going to publish it myself. And he thought, if I get it published, then people will take it on board. But even then, bookshops were like, no, we won't stock that. We can't have that on our shelves. Now, you know, he then said he cried when he saw his book on our shelves. So for me, it's like, yeah, we're making a difference because this guy's book is getting into hands, you know, and we've sold some, you know, so people are reading this, people are learning about a part of Black history that they didn't know. It never even occurred to me, you know, I've never really thought about what happened to Black people who were in Nazi Germany. I just assumed that they all fled and that they were smart enough to get out early. But it didn't occur to me that there would have been German patriots who couldn't leave, you know, and who have this different story. So yeah, I think, you know, we get emails like that. We have emails from customers. We have a lot of emails from customers, and particularly parents who say, you are not going to believe my kid opened a book and went, Mum, what? Mum, that person looks like me. And just seeing a Black child in a book just blows children's minds. Now that is outrageous. It's outrageous that in 2021, that children, you know, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15s have never seen a Black character in a book. How can that's fine if we lived in Victorian Britain and we don't, you know, there's no logic for that at all. So yeah, so I'd say in that sense for us, we're making a difference. I think that we're not the only ones. I look at a platform like Black Owned Economy, and I see over and over again, you know, businesses that are impacting by what they do, not just because, and I would say, I guess for me, particularly those that are going beyond just, oh, I'm selling this product, but are really thinking about the bigger picture behind what they sell. I think that the narrative is different for us as Black people. There is a different responsibility for us as Black people, that we think bigger. It's a bigger struggle for us to get a product out there, for us to start a business. You know, we don't just walk into a bank and go, got this great idea, can you lend me some money? You know, and so it's a bigger struggle, but I think there's a responsibility. I feel strongly that there's a responsibility that comes with that, and that we should be thinking, actually, who am I going to employ when when this gets bigger? So, Isabel manages our social media account. I needed an accountant at the beginning of January, and actually there was no question in my mind that my accountant would be Black. Like, absolutely. In fact, I was a little bit more specific, and I actually put a call out and said, I want a Black female accountant. And I got one. But so, I think there's bigger responsibility in that. In the autumn, we're going to be opening a physical shop in Brighton Lanes, which is another story for maybe a bit later if we get there. And, we've already set in motion and set the precedents and principles for who we will employ in that shop, and they need to be Black. But again, for us, we always want to go a step further. So we're saying they need to be Black, and they need to be people that would be deemed unemployable. So we're looking at people who maybe, are on universal credit, who've got criminal records, and all of those kind of things. We want to push, and we want to keep pushing a little bit further and thinking, how do we change the narrative for our community? But for me, how do I change the narrative for the next generation as well? What does that look like? I don't want there to be, in 30 years, children who are saying, I've never seen myself in a book. And I also, I want there to be, I want Afori Books to almost be a revolving door. I often think of it like that. I want people to come in, gain skills, get new experiences, and then come out. And that's okay. I don't need to hold on to them, but I want people in 20 years to be like, yeah, I started in this little bookshop, and now I'm an accountant, and now I'm a CEO. Now I run my own business. Now I run a competing bookshop. Hey, I'm even up for that. That's okay, But yeah, so I think, are we making a difference? Absolutely. Is the Black community and in businesses making a difference? Yeah, in some ways, yes. There are some, and I'm going to be honest, there are some businesses that I look at and think, no, you're not. You're so focused on money that you've forgotten that we're a community. But generally speaking, I guess, yeah, for me, yeah. Isabel, if I asked you, who are your Black brands, Black businesses that you're like, wow, you're making an impact, who would you say?
Oh, wow. So there is a business that's really funny, because this wasn't planned, but there's a business called Love Head Wraps, which I'm wearing their head wrap, that I love. They're London based, just a small local company, but just, I think the quality of their products is fantastic, which I love when you find local companies, especially Black owned businesses, that just have high quality for good price, like you're not breaking the bank, and that for me is a big thing. Their customer service is insanely amazing, just like ridiculously, just go above and beyond. And I think I have a real soft spot for customer service, having worked for a long time in the service industry and knowing people who work in retail and just how far just good customer service can go in terms of bringing in returning like customers and clients, I think is amazing. So I love what they're doing. I love, there is a clothing company called Kai Collective, and the founder of it, whose name I cannot remember now off the top of my head, she has just made the Forbes 30 under 30 for arts and culture list, and it's just, and I haven't been following them for very long. They're a little bit more on the kind of higher scale clothing, but again, very good quality, amazing designs, like the way that the clothing is designed, I think is very, very cool, very artistic, and I love art. And yeah, and I think I'd seen earlier this week that she got put on the list, and I was just like, oh, this is so nice, like to see other people achieving. I think particularly when I love looking at like Forbes 30 under 30 lists and stuff like that anyway, because to see people who are in your age range, achieving this like amazing things. I'm like, whoa. But then to see someone who looks like me, like who is in my age range, I'm like, I find it really encouraging, and I think really exciting to kind of see what they'll do. And then I will do a little bit of a, because I love music, it's the big thing, of a music plug. There is a rapper called Koj Radical, who I've only recently found out because of my brother, and I think just really nice to find English rappers who are just really, really articulate. And he used to be a poet and he got into rap, and he's like lyrically just, I think, on just another level. So I'm very excited to kind of see more from his side. But yeah, he's been.
I was going to ask Jermaine who his favourite Black business is, but I know he'd say A4E Books. So I don't want to put him in the spot.
It's not fair, really, is it?
No, I won't put you on the spot, Jermaine. That's okay.
What about you?
Like hands down, I guess they have become a business, but just astonishing what they've done is Everyday Racism.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they just, the work ethic of those two sisters is absolutely astonishing. And to turn, you know, such an anti-racist page into a business without ever feeling like they're exploiting the community that they're serving, I think is absolutely astonishing. I think that their desire to support the community and to educate beyond the community, yeah, I mean, just no question that they have become my heroes a bit, and it's definitely why I aspire to, yeah. So I think, yeah, for me, yeah, those guys just, yeah. And if you never looked at Everyday Racism, I mean, you're so missing out. It's probably the best thing on Instagram, easily. Yeah, so that would be mine.
No, I agree. I think I love that I'm just going to add on. I love that they're very good in terms of facts, which I know is such a simple thing, but I think sometimes you follow certain pages that just go with whatever's on Twitter or whatever's kind of everyone else has been saying, and sometimes things can get a little bit merged, but like they have just been very, very good at making sure that what they're saying is actually correct. Like they do their research into subjects, and so I find really helpful, and often will kind of send people over to their page for information on other stuff, because I'm like, I feel that they are trustworthy in terms of their information and stuff, which I think is such a such a great thing. Such a great thing.
Yeah.
So you spoke earlier about your ethos.
Yeah.
Which, do you want to repeat it just for people who have joined who might not have heard it?
Our 3-point mission plan.
Yeah.
Ethos. Every time I talk about it, I give it a different title. It's our mission plan. It's our ethos. It's our tagline. So 3 things that everything we do must fall into this 3-point mission plan, which is number 1, supporting Black authors. Number 2 is creating diverse bookshelves. And number 3 is being a voice for justice, or a voice against injustice, whichever way you want.
And so you talk about, which you've said before, in terms of if it doesn't fit with your mission plan, your ethos, whatever you're calling it today, then you're probably not gonna do it. You know,
not probably. We're 100% not gonna do it. We don't touch it.
So how do you, I guess phrasing this in a good way, how do you cover that level of being a voice for justice, right, and commenting on like social justice and having that kind of responsibility to talk about those things and to talk about these issues, and also maintain a level of we are a business and we are professional? What does that look like for you? Because I think that can be quite a difficult thing to navigate as a business.
So I don't think it's difficult, and the reason I would say that is I think that, you know, my advice for anybody on here who is starting a business, or, you know, is stepping out in their business, is that, you know, when I shop at Primark, which I don't particularly very often, but if I was going to go to Primark or go to Marks and Spencer's or IKEA, I don't know much about Mr. IKEA, okay, or Mr. Primark. I go there because it's a big shop. It's got all of this stuff in it. You know, I'm going for fairly generic reasons. You know, it's the closest shop or whatever. When you shop from an independent store, and it's interesting, you just spoke about the wrap that you're wearing on your head. You know, you're buying into more than just the product they're selling. You're buying into what they stand for. What is it they believe in? What is that? And often into the individual that is behind. Who is the face behind this small independent business? Okay. And if you think about that in the most simplest terms, okay, almost everybody has been to their corner shop. Okay. And if you go into your corner shop and the guy who serves you in the corner shop is always rude, you stop going. Okay. If you go to Primark and they're rude, you go back again, because you're not in there for the personality. If you read something, if you read that Mr. Primark or Mr. IKEA, I don't know, something mundane, hated Marvel, you know, I mean, apparently there are people in the world who hate Marvel. Who knew? You wouldn't stop going. Do you see what I mean? But actually, you know, if you go into the corner shop and every time you go in, he wants to argue with you and tell you Star Wars and Marvel are exactly the same thing and what you want about, you'd be like, guy, you don't know what you're talking about. I ain't going to keep coming in here. Because do you know what I mean? You're looking for, well, that's a really bad example, but you're looking for a connection with an small independent business. And so in one sense, that makes it easy to be an advocate for racial justice for us, because people are looking for more than just a place to buy books. Because if you just wanted a place to buy books, in all honesty, you know, Amazon is the cheapest place. Nobody in the world, and I mean this literally, sells books cheaper than Amazon. Okay. Now, I would also argue nobody in the world treats their staff more trash than Amazon. Okay. And they can sell books cheap because they don't even pay people a living wage. You know, people don't get lunch breaks. I mean, if you want, just do a little bit of research about Amazon and know why. Please never, ever buy. Delete your Amazon account now. I plead with you. But anyway, so you go to an independent bookshop, you come to A4E Books because you're looking for more than just the book. Okay, you're trusting me and my team to actually be sure that that author is Black. Let's just start simply there. You know, my customers don't look at every book, Google the author to ensure that the author is Black. Okay, maybe some do, but I'm gonna throw it out there. The majority don't. They trust me that the author is Black. They trust me that actually I support those authors, that I'm doing those that I'm treating those authors right. You know, they trust and assume those things about me. And so for me to say, hey, I'm a voice, I'm going to use my platform, I'm going to use my social media platform, I'm going to use my public speaking platforms to speak up for those authors, to speak up for the Black community, to speak up for people that are victims of racial injustices, that seems perfectly reasonable to my customers, because I'm a small independent, and they buy into not just the product, but who I am and what goes forward from us, what comes out from us. And I would argue that is the case for every small independent. You know, if I go to a small independent and you know, things are not right, the personalities, or you know, the things that they stand on, their missions and whatever don't sit right, I'm not going to buy from them again. You know, I would say, in all honesty, okay, when people boycott stores, most people boycott stores with very short memories. Okay, when they boycott big stores. So I'm not buying from Marks and Spencer's because Marks and Spencer's are arguing with Aldi about a chocolate cake. Okay, I mean, hilarious if you haven't followed that Twitter feed, funniest thing ever. But you know, it won't last long. People who say, oh, for goodness sake, Marks and Spencer's, you know, in a month or two, they'll be like, why do I not go to Marks and Spencer's? Oh, but I mean, I wasn't going to go, but, you know, I really like their apples or whatever it is. But actually, when people choose not to buy from an independent, it sticks for a lot longer. When people, you know, if you go to your corner shop, we'll go back to the corner shop again, and the man in the corner shop is racist, you won't go back. You won't go back because there's another corner shop. You don't need it. You know, you don't look at your small independent and think, oh, I need them. You know, you go there because what they've got is unique, it's different, and also because you want to stand with them. You agree with their ethos. And so, long answer, no, I don't think that's hard. I don't think it's difficult to have a stand, and it's why, for me, I feel that I'm going to be really pushy here, that actually it's our responsibility as I would say across the board for small independent shops, but particularly for Black-owned businesses. You know, if you've got a platform, you're standing on something, okay? And I will tell you that, you know, the legs of that platform were built by others that stood before you. And so if you're not willing to be the legs to create a next platform for the next generation, or other people coming after you, it's not right, you know, it's not right.
And I think, like, I guess, you know, we talk about social justice, which goes across lots and lots of different topics. But I guess if we narrow it down, we've both had businesses that have kind of started from the fact that it's more to do with racial justice, like it's more like a very, very specific thing. I think that it's important to remember that for Black people, this is our reality, right? And that actually this isn't like, oh, this has just come out of nowhere. Like they're just commenting on things that don't have anything to do with them. I think I've had a lot of conversations with people, as I think most people have, just about like, this is normal, this is the day to day, and this is commenting on like a little bit of what has happened on the day to day. This has been months of a build up, and now suddenly we're making a comment on it. And I think I've had conversations with a few people now about a little bit out of order, but just about questioning whether in some cases, are these bigger brands and these bigger businesses, are they being unprofessional by not commenting on it? Are they being like, is it that we're not professional for saying something, or is it that actually other people are being unprofessional by not saying something? I think there are some things that are a grey area, and it's okay to, you know, agree to disagree. And there are some things where there's very, very clear right and wrong. And I feel like what has happened, or what I've seen happen over kind of 2020 coming into now, is that for a lot of businesses, there's been this shift of just like, you can't toe the line anymore. You have to pick one side or another. And by not picking, you've picked. Like, and so I think that there is an opportunity and almost permission, not that we needed permission, but it feels like there's permission because there are more people on board now that we can talk about this, and we have got other people who are also talking about this, who kind of have our backs, and we are the ones who are in the right by making these comments and by talking about this. And
I think it's important to note that, you know, the reality is that a world without racial injustice is a better world for everybody. For every white person, the world looks better for them. They benefit. We all benefit when there is, the less injustice there is, the better the world is for all of us. And so, you know, hence we shouted very loudly in the last 3 weeks about Asian hate. You know, now I'm not Asian. I haven't got any Asians in my family. You know, I haven't got connections with Asia in any way, but it's an injustice. And so we stand against that, because you know what, it impacts us, because we're human beings and we live on this earth, and it impacts our business, and it impacts what we do, you know. So these issues are important for all of us, regardless as to what we're selling, you know, regardless as to what the foundation of our business is, you know, regardless of where we want our business to go. These issues impact all of us. And And we should be looking, you know, bigger than that. And also I think that, you know, for us as A4E Books, and it doesn't apply to everybody, but for us as A4E Books, actually, we are selling Black books. We're selling books by Black authors to everybody. We don't have an exclusively Black customer base. And so we have this platform, we have these people that are following us and watching us. But, you know, we're trying to reach out into a much bigger community. We're trying to reach out beyond our own Black community and reach, you know, a community of book lovers, regardless of their race and gender. And so we have to think about that as well and think, well, what is it we're saying? What do we look like to those organizations? So, you know, again, I would say we strive ourselves on excellent customer service, but also on ensuring that our brand and that our product is professional all the time, because, you know, we've got this big audience, and it's not just our mates, you know.
Yeah.
And when you're selling, you know, when you're selling to your mates, you know, you're running tuck shop in secondary school, or selling, you know, as my son used to do, buy chocolate bars on the way to school and then sell them at an inflated price in the playground. You know, very different business model. That's not the business model we're going for. We're saying to this nation and internationally, you need to take Black people seriously. Yeah. We've got products, we've got great business acumen. You need to take us seriously. And we also need to say in that, and that means you don't get to victimize us. That means you don't get to be racist. That means you don't get to shove us to one side. Yeah. And that's all of that is the same conversation. They're not separate conversations.
Yeah. I think the only way that you're able to do that is because you believe that there is value in what you are offering. And I think, for most Black business owners, it is coming to that point of going, actually, what I'm doing has value, and I'm gonna bring that forth, because I know that you not buying this is you missing out on what I have to offer. And I think that's very exciting to see more and more people starting to put value on their amazing talents and gifts and
absolutely,
and stuff like that, which is really cool. Really cool. Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit like you said about that, almost, you know, there has been a release. There's certainly been a release, you know, in the last year, of people feeling like, actually, I can.
Yeah.
I can actually, it's not as easy for you to get away with kind of telling me that I can't, or, you know, pushing me back or pushing me down. And so a lot more people are saying, okay, I'm going to take that opportunity and I'm going to run with this passion and this thing that I'm great at.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was the big one for me, was kind of making a decision. I've always wanted to do music. I studied music, and that was like a massive passion of mine. And I would advertise myself as a soul singer, but I love music of all genres, because that's what I grew up listening to, was stuff from like jazz, you know, all the way over to rock. And I think I often was like, oh, I want to do this, but then I also want to do this genre, and I also want to do this genre, and I also want to do this, and then maybe I want to open a cafe, and maybe I want to, you know, run this event, and maybe I want to have merch, and maybe I want to do all of this other stuff. And I think sometimes we feel like we have to limit ourselves, because we go, oh, well, you know, I need to do this one thing because this is my career, and we're like, you're focused on having this like set box. And actually, I feel like for a lot of people who haven't had the same opportunities that their white counterparts have had, we have to be inventive about how we monetize on talents, how we push products, how we create products and create a business. And what this means is you're starting to see Black businesses that are so like multi-talented, and they've got so many other things going on. You know, you have these businesses that are creating, I'm trying to think of that company, like Original Flavor, that are doing cookbooks, which is amazing. They're doing these cookbooks of Caribbean food, but then they're also doing like some delivery services, even though they don't have a cafe, and they're doing YouTube videos and allowing people to learn how to create Caribbean foods for people who haven't really like cooked before. And you're starting to see people becoming more and more creative, and actually in them creating new ways for them to monetize. They also open up new roads for other people to take, for people who wouldn't have had that opportunity beforehand. And I think that's really exciting to see. Actually, the more that we do, the more that we like, the more opportunity we give for other people to have the same opportunity, which I think is so exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very true. And Liz is just saying, like Pharrell and all his different companies, and absolutely. So I think it's, again, you know, we're not one-dimensional.
No.
You know, adversity, as you said earlier, you know, pushes you and makes you think, well, actually, maybe I can, and why can't I? And why can't I? I can't. And suddenly you're thinking, I can do all of these things. You know, I can do these things, and again, you know, I can make open doors for other people come on board and help me do all of these things, you know. And I think one of the richnesses of the Black community is this this ability to work together. So putting Jermaine on the spot a little bit, but I was asking Jermaine at the beginning about, you know, Black-owned economy and who's running it and who's doing it, and he was just talking about the fact that they're friends and family. They're all knitting together and working together, and just taking advantage of the community they've already got, this ability to go, hey, we can hang out, you know, we can do this stuff together. Would you say that that's a fair summary, Jermaine?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, it follows a lot of what you were saying in the beginning of how you started your company. It was just a case of us coming together, and when we actually spoke to each other about a certain topic, we all pretty much felt the same way, and we felt like we wanted to do something different that wasn't out there at the time. So like I say, my cousin, she just ran with the idea, and family, friends, people who she's reached out to within Black-owned economy have just jumped on board and just made like her dream a reality in a way. So like you were saying, a lot of the things that you've touched on already and the questions that you've answered, it seems to be a very similar theme to most of the businesses which I've spoke to who were created in 2020. They've talked about their vision, they've talked about their mission statement, their ethos, and every single business that I've spoke to would not compromise on any of those three things. So no matter what business decision they are making, if it doesn't fall within their vision, they just look the other way, or they just they'd find something else. And I think it's just amazing because in the job that I've got within Black-owned economy, you can imagine I get to speak to so many different businesses and so many different people from around the world, and we're all the same. We've got so many of the same ideas. We're selling different things, we're talking about different products, but the actual ideas and our stories behind it are so similar. So absolutely, like I say, that's my little bit. I'll let you two continue.
But I think it's very true. It's how we use our strengths, you know. And you know, we live in Brighton. We live predominantly, you know, Brighton is very white. There's a very, you know, the Black community in Brighton is very, very small, much more reflective of the size of the Black community in the country, I guess, probably even slightly smaller. And you know, I look constantly, and the white people and our white friends around us constantly over the years, you know, will talk to us about how we do hospitality, and well, how do you do that like that? And it's like, this is the richness of my culture. This is not I can teach you and I can instruct you on doing this, but I am literally telling you this is in my DNA. And so when we apply those principles to business, we fly. you know, and so you get something like Black owned economy that has gone from 0 to, you know, these massive numbers, these big followings, and then is able to give back into the community and say, hey, let's put on some mentorship programs, let's get some live rooms in there, let's do these things and feed back. Because actually all you're doing is saying, hey, how do I use this thing in my DNA about community and hospitality and togetherness? How do I use that to do something a little bit different? What happens if I change the platform and take that outside of these amazing Sunday dinners, you know, that we have where every cousin and whatever turns up for dinner? What if it wasn't about dinner? What if it was about business? What if it was about books? What if it was about skincare products?
And I think that really does kind of answer the question of, I think that's the key to the answer of the question of, are Black businesses, Black owned businesses making an impact on the community? Because I think the answer is really, what are they giving, what are they bringing back to the community? And the Black businesses that I see where I'm like, you're so successful and you're doing so well, are also the same businesses that are often giving space for other people to come into this platform, to grow and to learn from what they've learned, to learn from their mistakes, so that you don't have to make the same ones. And I think that's what makes the difference. Someone commented and said we have to enlarge our vision of what we're able to achieve, and I think it's true. And I think sometimes for some people, the enlarging of their vision is not necessarily them doing it themselves, but them watching someone else achieve and hearing someone else say, you can do the same thing that I just did, and I'm going to give you space to do this. I'm involved in a songwriting and creatives platform where we just, like, a few times a month, we kind of bring people together, and musicians and creatives together, and it's literally just about building community. And I think a lot of this was came from the fact that the four of us who started this songwriting circle up were people who had said, oh, well, when I started music 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, I wish that I'd had this community. I wish I'd had these people to kind of bounce ideas off of. I wish I'd had these people to help me market, or to help me do anything, or just to listen to a song and tell me if it's good or if it's bad. And so we got together. It's been going for a couple of months, and decided, okay, well, if we wanted this, there has to be at least one other person out there who wants this. And we've now got, like, at the moment, it's still quite a small community, but we've got like 50 people signed up, and we meet a few times a month and just talk. Like, it's never anything massive, there's not much structure around it, but I think just being able to share your own experiences, not even saying I'm an expert in this thing, or, you know, I know everything that there is to know about this particular industry or career or whatever, but just going, I have learned this, and I did this, and this worked really well, and this completely flopped. And just sharing that, and sharing your wins and sharing your losses with other people to help them to grow and to build a platform. And I think that's, for me, that's what I feel makes Black owned businesses stand out so much, because they tend to be so on it in terms of just bringing back and giving back to the community, and giving other people the space to grow. And I think it's so it's so amazing.
And I think that as well, it's about breaking what I believe is a lie of a narrative, which is that, you know, Black people can't work together, that we don't know how to join together. And, you know, I would say that, you know, the people who perpetuate this lie are also the people who perpetuate the lie that all Black people are in gangs. But here's my argument here. If all Black people are in gangs, then that proves that we can work together. So either way, there's no win in this, right? Because gangs work together. They have clear structure, they have hierarchies, they have rules that everyone abides to, okay? So either way, you're wrong. If we're all in gangs, we're brilliant at working together. We're not all in gangs, and we're brilliant at working together. You know, we thrive, and you know, and that's what I'm saying earlier, because, you know, we thrive so well in our hospitality, and in the way we, you know, you tell any black person, as far as I'm concerned, hey, we need to have a party. That thing is planned. I mean, I was an event manager for a long time, and I would hire Black people all day long, because Black people know how to manage events. They are event managers through and through. And so we have all these skills, and I love that we are proving, and we are creating a platform to prove that these narratives are not true about us, that we can work together, that we work together well, that we quite naturally, it feels to me, the majority of Black businesses that I come in contact with are constantly stretching a hand down to pull up the next guy. Yeah. And I just see that over and over again. And again, these are all the things that, you know, the stereotype says that we're not. Yeah. And so it's not, you know, it's just not true. But I also think, I guess moving it on a little bit, is that it's not just about, you know, how we make an impact within the community. It's about how we make an impact outside of the community as well. And I think, so that's why, you know, it's important to maintain these narratives, to be these voices for injustice, to think to ourselves, what am I doing beyond, you know, beyond this community? And so again, I would say it's an area where it is in our DNA, okay? Because if I go back to those Sunday lunches, okay, you know, yes, when my parents and my dad, you know, first came to this country, and I look at my nan, yeah, there were only ever Black faces around those tables, okay? But now we look, and I go into, you know, talk to families, talk to Black families, there are other cultures coming into family dinners. We're welcoming other people in. You know, the fact that Jamie Oliver offended so many of us 5 years ago with his pathetic attempt at making rice and peas is because our culture is beyond just our community. Yeah. And so we have these platforms, we're making these impacts, and that's actually as important. It's not more important, but it's as important as the impact we make within our community, that actually we are inviting others to sit at the table with us, you know, because what we're not doing is we're not repeating what was done to us, you know. So yeah, my focus, absolute focus, is on supporting Black businesses and supporting young Black people particularly. But my doors, we're not shut. So we, you know, as I said, our customer base is not Black only. Yeah. You know, the people we talk to, you know, new projects that we've got coming up, how do I say, we dominate the table. We're sitting at the head of the table, but there are other people with it on that table who don't look like us. Yeah. You know,
I think it's important to, I guess it's more just getting rid of another lie that Black people don't have influence. And I think it is important to look at, if we look at trends, if we look at clothing, if you look at social media, if you look at Clubhouse, which is obviously, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it, but it's a new app. It's on Apple at the moment. It should be coming to Android at the end of the year, but it became popular because of Black people. And you look at a lot of trends, a lot of the language that we use, a lot of the makeup, the styling, the hair, a lot of stuff. And I'm not even saying this necessarily in a culture vulture way or people stealing things, but Black people hold a lot of influence. Right. And we have the power to make things popular or likable. And I think using that, there are ways for us to use that to our advantage. Even just coming into a room knowing what I have to say and what I have to bring is of worth and matters. Absolutely. Completely changes the way that you view building a business, completely changes the way that you view pitching things to other people and being in those business relationships, understanding that what you bring is of worth and actually will have an influence on other people, because Black culture is rich. Black culture is more than just, you know, one set of people or one. There's so much to it. There's so much to it. And we get to bring that and just this rich heritage into rooms and bringing our experiences, like culturally and demographically and all of the other leads into a room and being able to share that with other people, knowing that actually what we bring is matters and what we bring is going to have an impact on other people. And I think that's massive, and that's such a it makes it so exciting, I think, when you start to see more and more Black businesses growing and more Black businesses getting started, because I feel like I'm watching other people going, oh, okay, you've seen that what you do is worth something. You've seen that what you're doing could have an impact on other people. And it's that constant possibility that I think keeps us going, which is really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, I'm just throwing out there, if you've got any questions, then yeah, hit us up, type it in the chat. We're up for anything you want to ask us. We might even know the answer. And if you just miss, I'm Carolyn from B.O.E Books, and this is Isabel from whichever hat she's wearing, Yaka, social media, whatever she's saying. So looking for my next question for you as well. So I guess we're in the middle of taking part, B.O.E Books is in the middle of taking part in a documentary for the BBC. So BBC World Service are doing a documentary, and they're talking about the power of Google search, and talking about, you know, Google search has all these statistics, and a lot of government agencies and NGOs and corporations use these Google search stats to determine what is current and what's trending. And this BBC documentary is looking at whether or not, I'm sorry, I've asked someone to bring me a cardigan and they're just acting really silly about it. And stay single, people. So they're looking at this, at what, you know, how accurate are these trends? And so our part in the documentary is talking about the trend for Black Lives Matter, Black related products, generally just kind of Black stuff, I guess. And so their question to us, or what we're talking about in the documentary, is that Google search showed this dip in searches for Black-owned businesses, and it made me think, they're not asking me this question, but it made me think, you know, I wonder how many people think that our moment has passed. And so I guess, Isabel, for you, you know, music industry and particularly, I guess, on social media, where, you know, you're managing a lot of social media accounts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, does it seem like Google's got this right and our moment has passed? And I guess, you know what, as well, to you guys who are tuned in right now, what do you think? Just tell me your answer in the chat. What does it feel like, if you own a business right now, does it feel like there's a dip? Does it feel like your moment has passed?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I just to say again, I run a couple of a few social media profiles of businesses. So one of them being B.O.E Books, and then another two smaller businesses that are both based in Brighton. Yeah, it's interesting. One of the businesses doesn't really count. It's not Black-owned business. I think that the answer is no, and then also a little bit yes, but not really yes, but like a tiny bit yes. I think that there are people out there who are still very, very centered on buying from Black-owned businesses, supporting Black-owned businesses, supporting Black people in general, and are really very much on board with not just allyship, but being anti-racist. And so they're seeking to learn, and they're seeking to grow and understand Black culture much better. In saying that, I feel like people are searching for things less because they found what they wanted. And so they're kind of, I think we're creatures of habit. So, you know, we go, oh, well, my playlist is mostly Ariana Grande, so I'm going to go and look for another pop R&B artist or style of music that I like who's a Black singer. I go and find that Black singer, and then I'm just going to loop that particular singer for the next 7 months. Do you know what I mean? And I'll just listen to all of their new stuff, and I'll get a few recommendations from that based on my listening. Spotify will send me a bunch of new things, and then it's all good. I think similar things have happened. People find Black bookshops, right? People find the Black books. They love an author, so they just keep buying that author's books. They love, you know, a certain clothing, so they keep going to the clothing shop, and they love, you know, and they kind of loop in that thing. So I don't think that things are dying off. I don't think that we've had our moment. I think that people are learning to be more consistent and have found things that work for them, and are sticking with those things. So I think I could understand why potentially on Google it could look like less people were searching for something, but then I guess I'd more want to look at the people that have just gone straight to a website, right? Because they already know that B.O.E books exist, right? They already know that I can go to, you know, love head wraps. Like, they already know that I can go and buy earrings from this company or shoes from this. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that looks very different. So I think no, and a little bit yes. A little bit yes, but mostly no. Yeah.
I'm going to pull Jermaine in here a little bit as well. I can't quite see the comments, but I did see somebody saying that people are still joining Black-owned economy. So I guess from your point of view.
Yeah, so pretty much we haven't seen any, like, I'd say maybe a little, but very slight, because on a day-to-day basis, we still get hundreds of posts, thousands of people commenting, thousands of people inquiring about different businesses, different products, through all our different platforms as well, not just the Facebook group. We get feedback from hundreds of businesses saying how well they've done. And this is in a year of 2020 where you would have thought you would have seen a little bit of a downslide. But most businesses and most Black people who we've spoke to have used 2020 as a bit of a, like you said, to get out their normal daily routine and try something which they might have been thinking about, but not quite had the time or I don't know the word, just it hasn't been the right time for them, where they had that bit of time in 2020 where they could actually go out and do the things that they wanted to do. So from Black-owned economy's perspective, we haven't really seen a downslide. If anything, we've seen it just being constant from the moment that we started. So yeah, it's difficult for me to say. I'm guessing the person who's approached you from the BBC, and they're talking about more generally, like with Google and stuff like that. And from that point of view, you probably can see why they're thinking there might be some sort of downside, because at the time when it all kicked off was the George Floyd stuff and various other things was happening, where you would have had a lot of searches other than people from the Black community searching, you know what I mean? So yeah, if they're looking at it from that aspect, they probably will see the figures go down. But again, it's how you look into the data. That's the thing. You can look at it black and white, but like you said, there's a lot of grey areas. Someone's put something in the chat. Let me just get it up now. What did they put? Yeah, you've got some search engines and some websites which actually have Black-owned sections, for instance. So you wouldn't go to the main part to do your search. You'd actually go directly to whatever it is you was looking for.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That would seem like there's less searches, but there actually isn't. People know exactly what they need to get and where they need to get it, so they'll go directly to the source. So yeah, that's a great point that someone's put in the chat.
Yeah, I think, like Isabel, my answer is very much that, you go to Google. My initial answer when the journalist asked me, I said to her, look, if I want to look up how to spell a word or learn a new word, I go to the dictionary.
Mhm.
But every time I want to use that word, I don't go back to the dictionary.
Mm.
I use it. I find different places to use it. And yeah, we might go to Google to find something, but Google is not the place for a conversation.
Yeah.
And those conversations are still very strong and very alive and kicking on social media platforms.
Yeah.
You know, there is not a day when there is not a conversation about Black businesses, about racial injustice, and all of these things. They're still happening all over Google. You know, I didn't, when George Floyd's murderer was found guilty, I didn't go to Google. I went to Twitter. You know, I went to Instagram. They're the places where I looked and found. And in fact, it was Twitter that told me that he'd been found guilty. You know, that Google wasn't a part of that. But it's, you know, it's interesting. And it's, again, if you run a business, it's really worth thinking about, what do you look like on Google? Because this is the place where governments and these big corporations are taking these stats, and they're taking these stats as, well, that's the end of the conversation. You know, and I would flip this around and say, you know, from another way of looking at this is that as a bookshop, we spend a lot of time on social media. A large percentage of our customers come from social media. And so we are constantly watching social media and watching for the trends on social media. And at least 4 times this year, I would say, because we've watched those trends, because we can see what's coming, we have had a book in stock that nobody else has had. So, you know, we, and even Amazon, which is quite a feat for a bookshop, you know, so we have been sending books out to customers when nobody else had them, because nobody else saw that trend coming, because you're not watching for trends. You're just looking at Google. You're looking at what bookshops are almost, and across, I'd say, corporations. Bookshops try to behave like the fashion industry in that they believe that they will dictate what will be the next big thing. And what we've seen, you know, if any of you guys are in fashion or clothing, what you'll know is that you can break those trends. You know, it just takes a key group. It just takes your clothing to be in the right place at the right time, and you can destroy a trend completely. You know, it's a little bit like when you know, Asda decide in November that in April, in May, they're probably going to be a heat wave, and they bring in loads of burgers because they think everyone's going to be, you know, having barbecues over that weekend. And that is literally how supermarkets work. But then what happens is there's a random snow or a lockdown even, and they're suddenly stuck with all this food, okay? Because they believe that they can dictate these trends to us. And as independent businesses, we are disruptors to that. That is literally what we do. We come in and we stand in the middle. We're like the kid that goes in the middle aisle of Asda, throws himself down and screams and has a tantrum. You know, no one knew that was coming. No one predicted it. He's getting all the attention. It doesn't matter that the woman on the tannoy is going, free bread in aisle 16. No, we're all staring at that kid, you know, who's having a tantrum or whatever. We are disruptors, and that's what we do. And so we come in and we watch the trends, because we're at ground level. We can see what is happening amongst our customers, amongst the people that we're trying to reach out, and we can go, right, I'm going to buck that trend, and also I'm ready for that other thing. I can see this coming, you know. So we knew, for example, Emma, I hate trying to say, I apologize if I say someone's name wrong. Emma DeBeery, I think that's how I'm going to pronounce her name. So she wrote a book last year called Don't Touch My Hair. It was massively popular. She wrote a new book. It was coming out in April, and it was called Allyship, what white people can do next. Now, it is not rocket science to anybody who's following Everyday Racism or Frory books or you know, any of these prominent anti-racist pages, that this is a constant question from white people on these pages. Yeah, no, but what do I do now? What do I do now? So, you know, it wasn't rocket science that this book was going to sell a lot of books. And so we were like, send them all this way. We'll get lots. We're ready for this. And nobody else was. And so, you know, people were just constantly like, sold out, sold out, sold out. And we're like, no, we've still gone. That's okay. Keep coming. You know, that's all right. We're on 200. That's okay. Keep it coming. But that is what we do. We go in and we make the decision, one, to sit ahead of the trend, but two, be ready to change it, you know, disrupt that, turn that around. So we've had books that nobody was buying. And so the publisher, which is what happens in the publishing world, you know, a quick kind of background is that in the publishing world, what happens is the publisher makes a decision about how many books they're going to print by a particular author. Now, if the author is Black and particularly has a Black sounding name, or the subject matter is Black, or there's someone Black on the cover, the publisher says, don't print too many, it won't sell. And they also make a decision to say, we won't push it much because it won't sell. So then it doesn't sell much because nobody pushed it and you didn't have many anyway. And then they go, see, we were right. And so one of the things that B.O.E Books does is we get those books and we go, no, we're going to push it. We're going to push it really hard. We're going to shove this on our front page. We're going to splash this on our social media. And we're going to say, no, but actually buy it. And so a few times we've had publishers just saying, we've run out of stock. And we're like, we better reprint then, because we've got 100 customers waiting for that book. And so we've pushed, we've caused print reruns on books, which for me is, I mean, the first time that happened, I'm not going to lie, I lost my mind. I was just like, yes, I made a print rerun. I've changed the world, you know. I was so happy, so happy. But I'm saying this to say we're disruptors, and there is nothing stopping you from being a disruptor. Nothing, apart from society telling you shouldn't. But hey, you know what? Stuff that. We're disruptors, and this is what we go in and we do it well. So stuff Google search.
Google search.
Let's write what it really is.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's good. Oh goodness. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please put in the chat, or just turn your mic on and say words, because that's always a good way to ask a question as well. So I guess it would be a good question for you would be, what advice would you give to someone who's got like a great idea, has just started a business, but is kind of struggling to get it past a certain point? You've kind of been there.
Yeah. I think that years ago, this guy told me that, he said, you never ever see a house being built without scaffolding. And the scaffolding actually often goes up before the building goes up. So you do a little bit of foundation, scaffolding goes up, building goes up. And then when the building's really, really ready, to scaffolding comes away. And so I would say, find scaffolding, find people who are going to come around and support you, because they're just so important. I 100% could not have built B.O.E Books without my family, who were just all the time just going, just do it, go on, just do it, go on, you've got this, you know, who would bring me cups of tea and food and bits, you know, in the late hours of night, or who also were the people who said, you know, Mum, close the laptop and go to bed. That's enough. 11 hours is enough for today. So I think that's one thing. Find your passion. If you're passionate about it and you love it, that's enough. Actually, you don't need to know everything about the business world or the business economy. You just don't need to. You'll bring people around you who will fill in the gaps and help you fill in the gaps that you don't know. But just go for it. Just run with it. I think it. You know, I think loving something and deciding that it's okay to be a pioneer and step out there is enough. And also, you know, if you missed the beginning, I said at the beginning that before we had A4E Books, I had a business that flopped. You know, it didn't do great. I don't like to say it failed, because I learned from it. And so it wasn't a complete failure in that sense. But that's okay. There's no, you know, I think often that we don't do things and we fear, we don't put ourselves out there to do things, and we think that we can't. But actually, it's not that we really think we can't, it's that our pride says you'll make a fool of yourself. You know, you don't want to be that person. You know, I have got 3 brothers who are very successful, and you know, I could spend all of my life just going, well, I can't be as successful as my brothers, or I can go, I can be as successful as me. You know, I can do this is my path, this is what's for me, and so this is what I'm going to go with and run with. So I think, yeah, just, you know, find your niche, find your thing. I saw a woman the other day, she put up a post, and it's a picture of the bread aisle in a supermarket. And she said, you know, it doesn't matter that there's somebody else already doing it. There's more than one loaf of bread in the shop. And I loved that, because I think, yeah, that, you know, I'm not the only bookshop, and, you know, Amazon exists, and I can't, in some ways, I can't compete against Amazon, but that's okay, because I'm not trying to. This is my niche. This is the thing that we're doing. And what I can do is I can do what I do better than Amazon does it.
There's an old church saying, Bible saying, I'm a church child, so grew up in church, that says, do not despise small beginnings. And I think just knowing, I think in your breath, everyone starts out small, like everyone, even I guess, even if we're talking about the people that start out bigger than usual, people like millionaires, still start out small in comparison to where they're at 20 years later. Like everyone starts out with something very small. And I think just like understanding that small is good, like small is a good place to start. A small beginning is a good place, because you can only go up from there. There's a lot to learn in the small space. There's a lot of mistakes that you can make without it being like catastrophic to your career and your business in the small space. And so I think utilizing that is massive. I think that there is a difference between comparison and like being competitive / challenging yourself. And so I think in the same way you talk about, you could compare yourself to your brothers and their success, right? And you could compare yourself to what they're doing, but that often will stop people, because when you compare yourself to other people who are successful, I work in the music industry, it's extremely competitive. And actually when you kind of break it down, I mean, there's a whole thing to this, but when you kind of break it down and start looking into what they call the urban genres, which is a term that I hate, and start looking at people working within the urban genres who aren't really doing like rap, you start looking at like soul and R&B singers within the music industry, there's actually a very, very small amount of those who are independent and not massive. And so when you start to compare yourself, it can be really, really damaging to what you're trying to do, and just generally to how you feel about what you're doing and your confidence, because everybody else is so massive. But using these people's careers as a challenge for yourself, and using it as a way to just have healthy competition, I think is a great way to kind of spur yourself on and think about your work ethic, think about the message that you're putting across, being able to take inspiration from other people and build from that, I think is really, really important. And I think I was told this years ago about how when you take risks, someone said to me, when you take risks, the first step is a risk. And then they said, then the problem is that you could take that one step and have taken the risk, and that's fine, you took a risk. And they were like, but then you stop. And the real challenge is choosing to continue to take risky steps like every single day, and go bit by bit and just keep taking risks. And they were saying that often people go, I took the risk and that is it. And that's all that I need to do. But actually learning that when you're in smaller businesses, particularly as Black people, when there's a little bit, you've got a little bit more to fight for, and it's a little bit harder than it would be for other people, it is risky. And it's just taking that little challenge of like, today I'm going to take the next risk, I'm going to take the next step, I'm going to choose to, yeah, take that, and pace yourself. You don't have to do all of the things in one day. Sometimes it's good. I get very easily overwhelmed. I'm a planner, and sometimes when I think about everything that I have to do, I'm like, and so just taking a moment and going, okay, well, what do I have to do today? What do I have to do in this next hour? What do I have to do kind of right now? And then working from there, and making a decision really to not address the future things until you get to that point, and just learning to pace yourself, I think, is a massive massive thing.
Yeah, I'd also add to that you know, you're starting off small, and you know, I agree with Isabel, you know, we don't despise small beginnings, but whilst you're starting off small, your community is massive. You know, Black people make up the majority of the world, you know, so we talk about ourselves as a minority. We're only a minority in some places, you know, but the Black community is massive. And start thinking about yourself as part of a community, as part of a family. You know, if you're in any kind of church or religion, do you know what I mean? Who is your community? Because actually that's part of who you are. And so you're not out there on your own, you know. And if you feel like you're out there on your own, then Black-owned economy is literally the place to go. Just, you know, there is so much support. Nobody needs to feel like I'm out here paddling by myself, you know. It's just not necessary. Your canoe is way bigger than that. And if you look behind, there's a few people paddling behind you. There's a guy turning the rudder for you. You know, you're not on your own at all. And so, yes, seeing yourself as a bigger part, seeing yourself within a community, and looking at how, you know, as we've talked all the way through this evening, you know, about just stretching our hands down to help people, but just thinking, okay, I need a hand up, and put your hand up, literally put your hand up. Someone will reach down and pull you up. I guarantee it. And if they don't, email me. And I really mean that. Email me, talk to me, customercare@aforibooks.com. Email me and say, hey, no one's pulling me up. What can I do? And I will find a way to help you. I really will.
It's good. It's helpful. It's good. I think Yvette had asked in the comments, does Google search emulate how and what a person can find on its search engine at times? I think this was back to our Google question. And as far as I remember, I'm saying this as far from my research, yes, it does. So Google, the way that Google works is outside of the companies that pay for ads. I really have to go deep into my search engine optimization knowledge. Outside of the people that pay for ads, Google's job is to get you to click on stuff and send you onto other websites as much as they possibly can, because they want you to keep coming back to Google. So usually through cookies, which is the stuff that we will just press agree to on the websites. When they say, do you agree to the cookies, you say yes. Through cookies and just general data, they are kind of able to figure out roughly, like, this will be of slightly more interest to her than this thing. It's much more complicated than that. I've just really because within that, then there's also like key search words within the website, and there's lots of other things that websites have to do to kind of get onto the first page of Google.
And there's those spider things, crawlers.
Yeah, there's a lot. I would look up search engine optimization if you want to look into a little bit more into Google. It requires a little bit of time, but definitely worth it. If you have a website and you want your website to be on Google, then yes, please definitely do. Also, email. I mean, I'm happy to help out in whatever way I can. I've done a little bit of it. I haven't done a bunch, but I've done a little bit of it and know a bit about it. So if you want to email me, please go for it at isabelbainmusic@gmail.com. Please feel free to email me and I will help you out or send you links as much as I possibly can. But also just Google search engine optimization or SEO if that's helpful, and then kind of go from there, because there are lots and lots of people who are very, very good at it and can help you out with that as well. There you go. That's what Brainy said.
Well spotted.
Thank you, thank you. We're kind of like coming to the end. What is on the this is how the question was phrased. What is on the pipeline for you next? Which I know is proof that you wrote this question, because I would never say pipeline. Pipeline. That's such a specific word. Oh my goodness. What are you doing next?
Pipeline. Isn't that a correct term? Did you say pipeline, Jermaine?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Pipeline, yeah.
These young people.
I know.
What in the pipeline for us next? So we are, as I said, we're working on this documentary of BBC, which is very exciting. And again, top tip is that if you don't know what a backlink is, backlinks are so important, okay? So if you want to get your website pushed up in on Google, you need backlinks, okay? Unless you're going to spend millions on SEO optimization, you need backlinks, which is basically where somebody who's really famous and has a really popular website mentions your website, and it's the cheating way of getting you up. So doing a documentary with BBC is really exciting because there will be a backlink. And a BBC backlink is like one of the best backlinks you can ever get. So that's why it's exciting from that point of view, because it's great for business. But it's also really exciting just to have this conversation. And I think just generally, I'd say that kind of what I've gathered from the journalist is that pretty much this is my response is pretty much the way the documentary is going, which is that Google's stats are wrong, basically. So they're talking to me as a Black-owned business, but they're also talking to a pro-capitalist movement in Iran. So it's a very wide stretch kind of documentary. So very exciting for us. So we're doing that. We have this amazing story, which I love to share. Well, I don't really, but Isabel pushes me and says, share that story. So in October, which would be 3 months after Euphoria Books opened, we were contacted by a local charity in Brighton. And they said, hey, we think there should be a Black-owned bookshop, or Black-owned bookshop, you know, a bookshop specializing in Black books, because they don't really care who owns it, but I think they wanted it to be Black-owned as well, in Brighton. Would you like to come and talk to us about that? And I thought, well, yeah, I'll come and talk to you, but I'm coming to talk to you to tell you why that can't happen. I'm coming to talk to you so you can really understand the obstacles for Black-owned businesses, for the obstacles that exist in the publishing world. So I went along to that meeting, and this woman was very excited, telling me all about why there should be this Black-owned bookshop, etc. And I was explaining to her why that doesn't happen, and you know, the pressures of trying to make rent and sell enough books in a week, and specialist bookshops, and the markup for books is not very high, and etc. etc. And then she just looked at me and said, oh, no. We want you to open a Black-owned bookshop. We're giving you the property for free. There's no rent. We're giving you a shop. You just need to turn up and sell your books. I'm not, as you might have gathered if you've been sitting here for the past sort of 2 hours, not a person that's very often short of words. I was short of words in that moment. And I just went, sorry, can you just give me a minute, because you've thrown me and I'm just going to need a minute to process what you've just said to me. So the long story, the short story, not the long story, a long story short, that's what I'm trying to say, is that in the autumn, we hope to be opening a bookshop in Brighton. We have got the building rent free, and it's a beautiful building. And if you know Brighton, it's in the North Lanes, which is prime property in Brighton. And so it's an incredible experience. We are having to raise the money for shop fitting and for stock. So we will be starting a crowdfunding page, woo-hoo, in the next few weeks. So please stay tuned for that, and have a look at our Instagram page for books for more information on that. To be fair, this is the first time I've actually said this publicly. So you're first to know about For Books, the shop, hot off the press. We've known this since October, but we have literally only discussed this with family and friends. So yeah, first time we've gone public with this because we're feeling confident that it's actually going to happen. So that is very big on the pipeline for us. We've got a few speaking engagements. For Books will be at the Black British Book Festival in Birmingham in the summer, in June, which is the first for that event, which is very, very exciting for us. And I mean, I'm just like, to be fair, this is the equivalent of putting like a 5-year-old in a chocolate warehouse and going, do what you want, mate. You know, the thought of me spending 2 days surrounded by Black authors is just like, I'm losing my mind. So yeah, very exciting event. Yeah, and I think just continuing to grow, continue to gain more customers, and really just spreading the word, and yeah, working with stuff. We've got a few, I can't say, no, I can't, can I? No, I can't say. We've got a few new authors coming, which we're very excited about. We're getting, I can't say more than that, but yeah. So a very well-known person is coming along to For Books, and we're helping them do their book launch, which is very exciting. So we're seeing that a little bit more. Yeah, and just more authors coming through, just really seeing more authors self-publishing, which is really exciting for us. And we're hearing more about people kind of saying, actually, now that they know they've got a platform, now that they know they've got a place where a shelf that their book can sit on, that they're much more willing to take the risk and say, I'm going to go for this, I'm going to write that book. So yeah, so that's kind of what's in the pipeline, that well-known saying, Isabel. What about you?
I have spent almost a year now working with the Prince's Trust, which has been amazing. Just a great opportunity, but I think particularly in terms of just getting business experience. I didn't really have a lot of actual like corporate business experience. I've always just kind of done my own thing, so that's been very helpful. So I am getting ready to launch a songwriting and networking event, hopefully in September is the aim. So doing the first event online and then building onto some in-person ones when everything is kind of safe and we're good to go. So I'm very excited about that. We're just kind of working through some little tiny financial bits and things, but it seems like that is a go ahead, and that's very exciting. I am working on a massive music project. I am self-filming a documentary on that is linked to some big music project of some songs that I've written, where I'm going through the 5 stages of grief and interviewing people, specifically Black people, about their journey of mental health in all of its variations. I've got just a history of quite bad mental health, and it took quite a big toll over lockdown, and then I think just started to talk to more people and started to realize, oh, this is the thing. And so just trying to, I think we talk about mental health a lot, but really trying to really focus on mental health within the Black community, what that's looked like through COVID, what that's looked like through the BLM protests, and all of the other racial justice and all that kind of stuff going on. So very excited, very heavy. So just trying to pace myself, but very exciting. Lots of it is lots of very small stuff that I kind of need to do in my own time, and then I'm going to start interviewing people, which is very, very exciting. Those are my two massive things. Getting ready to kind of relaunch the merch site. We run for the people who missed at the beginning, I run a merch site for musicians and creatives and artists who are looking to earn money from merch. Basically, we kind of help them to sell their merch and then distribute their merch through drop shipping, which is fun. So the site is having a little bit of a revamp at the moment. So if you look it up, it will say we're having a revamp at the moment, but we'll be in touch soon. So we're just doing a little bit of maintenance on the site, getting in touch with some more artists and bringing some more people on board, which is really exciting. If anyone knows any artists, particularly Black artists who are looking to earn money, please tell them to get in touch at yakaapparel@gmail.com, because we'd love to hear from them. It's very exciting. I'd love to just try and help people as much as we possibly can. Yes, quite busy. Yeah, quite busy. Quite good.
Jermaine, what's in the pipeline for Black-owned economy?
All sorts of stuff. So we're coming up to a year of Black-owned economy quite soon. So we're thinking about what we're wanting to do for that. Hopefully, very soon, we can get some actual physical events rather than everything being online. Touch wood that we don't go back into another lockdown or something like that, but hopefully we can see the light at the end of the tunnel and we can start putting on actual events to support some of the businesses that are out there. As I said when we had our conversation before, we're always doing live events, all different types of events, mentoring, any way you can think of to support the businesses within our community. We are there to help. So literally, it's just about everyone either going on our website to see what we've got coming up, or just keeping in touch via emails or via our Facebook group or page.
That's great.
Yeah, so yeah, it sounds like you two are going to be very busy over the next couple of months, but it all sounds super exciting. I've just got a quick question. When can we watch your documentary?
Oh, I don't know. I would say probably keep looking at B.O.E Books on Instagram, and we'll let you know when it goes up. Yeah.
What's your website? Do you just want to share your website just quickly for everyone, just so they know? We're
really easy. It's boebooks.co.uk.
Cool. Can't get easier than that, can you?
Yep. And that's the same. That's our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's it. And our LinkedIn.
And what did you say if someone wanted to get in touch with you via email? What did you? Was it customer services?
Yeah, customer care. Customer care at boebooks.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was going to ask then, just as this is more just a final closing question, if someone was like, oh, I absolutely love this business, I absolutely love what she's doing, I really want to support her, can you name 3 top things that you're like, this would be the one you were going to support?
I'm throwing a clanger.
I
I guess so. I would say, in the coming months, we will be looking for financial support. And I think that I would say the best thing that you can do for a Fori is buy a book, because you're not just supporting us, you're supporting Black authors. And actually, in all honesty, you know, the markup on books is not very high. Fori, when no one, me certainly not as the founder of Fori Books, this is not going to make me a millionaire. It's not even probably going to make me a thousandaire, to be honest. It's, you know, the markup on books is not very high. This is not a massive money-making enterprise. But for authors, you buying their book makes a massive difference. I mean, I cannot even stress to you how much difference it makes. So I would encourage you to buy a book. And I would encourage you, when you buy a book, have a look at the author's name, go on Instagram or Facebook and find the author and say, hey, I bought your book, I like it. You know, for creatives, for people pouring themselves out, you know, you can read a book in a couple of hours. I mean, I'm a speed reader, right? So I read really fast, but so, you know, I can read a book in 2 days, but it took someone a year. You know, I'll go back to Lee Naffer again. You know, 20 years ago, that guy wrote that book and has lived with the hurt of nobody recognizing his work, nobody recognizing his creativity for 20 years. I mean, I can't even imagine, you know, what that feels like. And so for somebody to go on to buy, if you want to buy Lee Naffer's book, it's called The Grey Storm. For somebody to buy Lee's book and then go on Lee's social media and say, hey, I bought your book. Well done, mate. Can you imagine the impact that would have on him? And I say this because authors have told us this over and over again. You know, authors are so blown away when we comment and just say, great work, amazing, love that character. You know, so yeah, I would say support Fori Books by buying a book, but actually think more about authors. Think about that massive community of creatives who have just, you know, poured out their life. It's hard. You know, most authors cannot be full-time writers because the publishing industry exploits them so badly, and that's the honest truth. Amazon exploit them so badly. You know, the average author from an Amazon book is making less than £1.50. You know, that's outrageous. It really is. So support authors, buy a book, support authors. That's the best thing you could do, I think. And yeah, you know, following us on Instagram is amazing. It helps us loads. You know, the more followers we get, that helps us, and it pushes up our profile and stuff like that. And so follow us on social media. And when we start crowdfunding, be generous.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's the same message that I always try and push, and it's just about supporting everyone within our community. Supporting individual businesses helps to grow our overall community. It reaches out to everyone to collaborate and just to support. That is the main thing. That is what we're here for, and that is what all these businesses need. So yeah, I'd just like to thank our hosts again for this evening. It was a fantastic discussion, lots of points there raised, lots of questions answered. As I said at the start, this session's recorded, so it'll be going out on our website, which is www.blackowned-economy.co.uk, and it will also go on our YouTube channel, which is Black Owned Economy Presents. So have a look out for all of our content on there, especially this one, because it's been a really good event this evening. Thank you again to both of our hosts. Just a quick one. So we've got 2 more B.O.E rooms for April. We've got one on Saturday and one next Thursday again. I want you to go to our website and check them out. So go to Black Owned Economy website, go to B.O.E Rooms and check out what we've got coming up for the rest of April. It's still along the same themes of 2020 businesses. So check that out. And like I said, support, support, support. Thanks again. And thanks for you guys viewing, and thanks for our host this evening. And we will see you all again soon.
See you very soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.